Hey YouTube, welcome back to a brand new Animal Crossing video. Today we are breaking down the top 5 crossovers of all time in the Animal Crossing universe. It's a fun one, so without further ado, let's get straight into today's video. So like many other Nintendo IPs, Animal Crossing has always had its fair share of crossovers with other franchises, whether that's designing villages around popular trends at the time, or by including furniture inspired by other video game series, or even through official licensing with third-party brands in order to promote products. We've seen instances of this ever since the original Animal Crossing, and this trend has continued all the way through the series to modern day versions of the game. So with this in mind, I thought it'd be fun to break down 5 of the best crossovers within the Animal Crossing franchise. Number 1. Bilingual. Now, all the way back in the E+ version of the original Animal Crossing on GameCube, 2 villages were added to the game for the first time called Meow and Bao, who are cat and dog villages respectively. Although not an official brand crossover as far as I know, these 2 villages were heavily inspired by pet translation devices that were extremely popular at the time, called Meowlingual and Baolingual devices. Essentially, these devices would translate barks and meows into emotions and phrases humans could understand. However, they were also very aesthetically pleasing as they looked a lot like virtual pets. As you can see, both Meow and Bao look a lot like their device counterparts, somewhat resembling monochrome LCD screens. To unlock these villages, you had to scan their corresponding e-reader card and invite them to move in. However, sadly, the feature to invite villagers to town never made it outside of Japan, and despite these adorable villages never returning to future installments, are undoubtedly one of the most unique crossovers in the franchise. Number 2. 7-Eleven. Back in the early Animal Crossing New Leaf days, the 7-Eleven franchise made its first appearance in Animal Crossing and introduced an entire furniture set inspired by 7-Eleven stores, adding several unique shop items to the game, which later became one of the most iconic crossovers in the Animal Crossing series. Sadly, these were only officially distributed in Japan. Later down the line, the 7-Eleven crossover returned to Happy Home Designer and introduced Philly the horse as a way to distribute the items once again. The 7-Eleven crossover was refreshed again with the Welcome Amiibo update to New Leaf, and not only added even more 7-Eleven items to the game, but also added Philly to the villages you could encounter. Unfortunately, despite being able to encounter Philly at the campground as DLC, and unlike Meow and Bao, she couldn't be invited to move in. With the hype surrounding the exclusive items and the limited availability of Philly, the 7-Eleven is one of the best crossovers to date. Number 3. Splatoon. Now, if you play Animal Crossing, you've probably played Splatoon. These games tend to share an audience and for the most part even share game developers, so it's no surprise Nintendo would treat 2 of their top franchises to a crossover. Towards the end of the New Leaf era, when the games were refreshed with a fairly sizable update out of the blue, the game received over 50 new villagers and several crossover characters, each with their own themed furniture sets. 3 of these crossover characters include Inkwell, Cece and Vici, who are all inspired by their Splatoon counterparts. Each of them can be invited to the campground using their amiibo and offered a large selection of Splatoon themed furniture items, which make for some of the most unique Animal Crossing furniture in the series. Furthermore, each of these villages can be moved into town, which at the time made the amiibo figures fairly desirable for New Leaf fans. Interestingly, these 3 Splatoon-inspired villages are the only characters based on other Nintendo franchises that are not directly named after their corresponding character, unlike the Zelda villages for example. Furthermore, Splatoon also saw a small crossover in Animal Crossing Pocket Camp that saw craftable Splatoon items, fishing tourneys and scavenger hunts, Splatoon fortune cookies and even Splatoon hairstyles and outfits. The uniqueness of the furniture items and the fact these characters were so recognizable outside of Splatoon made them the perfect crossover for Nintendo fans. Number 4. Fuweki. Another officially licensed brand deal saw a Fuweki crossover within Animal Crossing and arrived in the Welcome Amiibo update. Fuweki is a supply and stationery company that sells franchised pots of glue, and of course released some Animal Crossing versions as part of the collaboration. The in-game part of the crossover introduced Holden the jock hamster, who was heavily inspired by the Fuweki mascot. Like Philly, he could be encountered at the campground in an exclusive RV and introduced an entire Fuweki themed furniture set set, which as you can see was completely themed around Fuweki products. Again, this was only distributed in Japan, and unfortunately, like Philly, Holden couldn't be invited to move in, making his appearance and his furniture set very desirable and possibly one of the strangest but fun crossovers in Animal Crossing. Number 5. Pokemon. Now, to everyone's surprise, ahead of the Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee launches on Nintendo Switch, Animal Crossing saw a Pokemon crossover. In 2018, Animal Crossing Pocket Camp held an in-game event that saw players collecting limited time Pokeballs and using them to craft exclusive Pokemon themed items. Some of these items included a giant stuffed Eevee, Pokemon themed furniture items, rugs and Pokeballs. Sadly, no Eevee inspired villagers were added to the game like in previous crossovers, but you could craft Eevee themed outfits and dress like one. Ignoring the Pokemon Pikachu item that could be obtained for a short while from villagers in the original Animal Crossing, Pokemon has never really featured in Animal Crossing. So this was a very unexpected crossover and one of the most recent, making it one of the coolest Animal Crossing crossovers to date. So there we have it, that was 5 of the best Animal Crossing crossovers and collaborations in the video game series. Of course there are plenty of others, with an honourable mention going to the Sanrio inspired villagers which were recently added to New Horizons 2. And who knows, maybe some of these older and lesser known crossovers could also make their way into New Horizons in the future. But what do you think about these crossovers, and do you think Nintendo should do more crossovers in the future? Be sure to let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Anyway, that pretty much wraps up this video. Of course, I'd like to thank all of the Patreon and channel members for supporting this content and helping me upload as regularly as I do. I couldn't do it without you. As always, if you made it to the end of the video, be sure to leave a like and comment meow just to let me know you did. That would be super awesome. And be sure to include which is your favourite Animal Crossing crossover of all time. I'd love to know. Anyway, until next time, have an amazing day, stay safe, and I'll see you in my next video. Peace.